This is Hikaru Nakamura. He is the 6th highest rated chess player in the world, as well as a top 3 chess streamer on Twitch. However, he is certainly not top of the charts when it comes to niceness. Here's his reaction to not winning Chess Streamer of the Year.
And people will get mad at me for saying this, but like if you look at like Levy, you look at Botez or people of that sort, they're never going to win anything when it comes to chess. That's just a reality.
But he's wrong. How could he forget that I was the Canadian national champion for girls 8 and under? Well, I did also win 5 other national titles and represented Canada in the Olympiad 3 times. So today, I'm gonna wash the dirt off of my good name by showing one of my favorite games from my competitive career. I was a wee little 16-year-old competing in the World Chess Olympiad in Istanbul, Turkey. I was on the Canadian women's team, and we were in a match against England. I was the last player on the team still going, and the current score was 2-1 for England. The final result depended on me, and I had to win to tie the match. I was playing white against a higher-rated women's international master named Sabrina Chavanes. Here I was on move 31. She was trying to attack my king, but couldn't really get through. However, I did have this really awkward pawn structure, and the position was so close that it seemed impossible to make any kind of winning plan. That being said, Coach Yuri's favorite phrase was, "You don't win, you don't play." And I was not ready to get benched again. So I decided to come up with a rather unorthodox plan. I figured if I lost or if I drew, that would mean the same for my team. So I might as well go for it and try to open up the position. I played rook takes c6.
The rook!
She had to take back, b takes c6, queen takes c6, and here I was attacking the knight and the rook at the same time. There was no way for her to save both, because if she played a move like rook c8, then I would play queen b7, still attacking them both, and she'd have no way to defend. So instead, she played rook b8, which would at least win an extra pawn at the end of all of these trades. So here, I had sacrificed my rook for a knight and a pawn, or 4 points worth. That being said, her rook didn't have a lot of activity. I didn't see how I was going to get out of g6, and the queen, while it was attacking my king, also didn't have any concrete plan. That being said, the rook on b3 was a little mischievous. It was threatening b2, it was threatening d3, so I had to bring my queen back to take care of both of those problems. She played rook b4, which put pressure on a4, and also was looking towards f4 for maybe a potential future sacrifice. But I wasn't worried about it just yet because I could take with the e-pawn. So I played rook c1 to try to activate my pieces, get on the open file, and hope for some kind of future attack. Here she came up with a brilliant counterplay idea, and she played d4. What she was trying to do here is pry open my king side pawns, or the pawns that were protecting my king. I couldn't let her take on e3 and play king e3, or you know what, actually I think I could have done that, but e takes d4 did the same thing, rook takes d4, and now I was actually starting to worry about rook takes f4. So I played king e3. And I know that kings usually get a bad rep, but even though my king was out in the open, there was no way for her to attack him directly. She did, however, find a very sneaky move. She played rook takes f4. And the problem with g takes f4 here is that after queen takes h4, her king is a lot safer than mine. Her rook and queen are now both free and ready to be active. And now, even though the position might have equal material, her material is of a higher quality. So, you know, let's say that I would have tried to protect myself. A move like rook f1, she could have continued with rook g3, rook f3, queen h2, just continuing to put pressure on my pawns. And if I were to trade off, what would happen is that ultimately black would start collecting all of my pawns. So there was no way I was going to take the rook. That being said, she wasn't threatening anything right away. I did think that if there was some way to protect my bishop, I would at least threaten to take the rook on f4, and you know, I wasn't super comfortable with all of her heavy pieces being so close to my king. So I played queen c8, she had to move king h7, and I played queen d8, which was not only defending my bishop on h4, but it was also preparing for rook c8 to try and threaten checkmate on h8. She just kept collecting my pieces. Rook takes a4. At this point, I really had no other choice than to play rook c8 and to try to go for checkmate. The interesting thing is that the position here should have been drawn. She had one move that could save her. Try to see if you can find it. The move was rook g5. It was the only way to make space for her king. If I would check her on h8, she would just go to g6, then I would give her another check on e8, and she would go back to h7, and it would be a perpetual, meaning that Team England would beat my lovely Canadians. Also, I couldn't actually take the rook here. If I would take queen takes g5 check, my king would go back, queen d2, she's ready to collect all of my pawns. I would try to run away, and I would get into this very unfortunate position where there's no way for me to defend on g3 and g2. If I try to keep the king in checks, she'd be able to run away. King h5, and then I have no more checks here because of g6. However, that's a really hard line for us non-Hikarus to see. So lucky for me, she went for a different variation that gave me great winning chances. She played queen d4, offering an exchange of queens when I'm already up material, even if not for long. I took, she took, and I took back with my king. The problem was that my bishop was on the side, meaning that after rook g4 check, I play king c5, g5 traps my bishop, and I had to end up giving the material back. We ended up trading off into an equal material position. However, my king was more active in supporting my pieces as well as being centralized. Hers wasn't, and this makes all of the difference in a lot of endgames. I was attacking f5, so she pushed f4. I played rook f8, and it's always best to attack a passed pawn from behind. Instead of trying to protect it, she played rook d2, attacking my pawn on d3. Here I was happy to make the trade though, because afterwards I would be holding the a4 square from her passed pawn while my passed pawn was closer to promoting. I played king f6 to move out of the way because my entire plan here was help my pawn on e5 promote on e8. She played a4, sacrificing her pawn, thinking that this would give her the best chances to hold the position. I took, she played rook f3, and I played king e7. I didn't play king e6 because I wanted that square for my pawn to be able to advance. Here she played king g6, which is exactly what you're trying to do. You're trying to activate your king in the endgame, and she was hoping she could somehow put pressure on e5 with both of her two pieces. I continued pushing. She played rook e3 to start preparing the attack on e6, and I played rook a5 to make sure that her king couldn't go to f5 and attack my pawn. Here she pushed h5, which was a pretty big mistake because after rook g5, king h6, I've now successfully pushed her king away from helping defend against the promoting pawn. She could have gone for a trickier line, but again, we were both getting very low on time and it's hard to be as precise then. What she should have tried for here is rook b3. And the idea with rook b3 is basically you're trying to keep the king in checks and somehow put more pressure on the e8 square so that I can't support it. I would have had to continue with a weird plan like rook a2. It looks weird, let me just put a couple moves on the board so you understand why. She would have checked my king. I would have played king d6 to try to make space for my pawn. She would try to likely bring her king closer, which is why having my rook in a position where it can give checks is super helpful. Rook f2 here. Let's say her king would go away, then I would continue pushing. But again, it's still a little bit complicated because now she can protect the promoting square or defend the promoting square by making a move like rook b8. And if I play king d7, she could try to keep me in checks. I can't play c8 to shoo away the rook because then she would take on e7, and if I go back to d8 to help defend e8, she would just keep me in another check. So I would have to play a move like king d6, and yeah, here she could play rook b8, she could also play rook b6. Actually, I lied. She can't play rook b6 because there's king c7, and how is she going to defend this? I guess with rook e6, and then I play king d7. endgames are complicated. I'm trying to give you guys the simplest lines to just get the ideas across, but here I would be able to promote. So instead, let's say she would make a move like rook b8, then I'd have to go for another weird looking plan. And the plan would be waiting for her to get a rook on an open file so that I can use my rook as a decoy. If she takes on a2, then I'm able to promote. And if she tries to run away, let's say a move like rook b8, then I go king c7. She tries to defend either e8 or h8, and then I play king d7, finally defending the promoting square. So honestly, could have been a complicated endgame had she seen this. Let's go back to where we were. So rook g5, king h6, and here I continued with king f6 because I wanted to make space for my pawn to promote, and if she would check me, I'd have moves like rook f5. She tried to go for my pawn. Honestly, it was already lost at this point. I promoted to a queen. She gave me one last pity check. I blocked, and she ended up resigning here, and Team Canada drew the match. Wait, does that mean I've never won anything in chess?
They're never going to win anything when it comes to chess. That's just a reality.